do this next bit briefly. Page 12. Question of: are we allowed to feed Goyim the Shmita fruit? Right. This is a very, very big nafkamina. First of all, in those kinds of places, right, where I'm going to, let's say I put the food out for the staff, for the hospital staff, right? And anyone here work in a hospital? Now, if I put there's where they do have, they do. They wouldn't. All right. Hatem also not. What? You will know through everything. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I assume. Yeah. Now. Yeah. But let's say you want to put out. They want to put out Shmita fruit. Forget the Tzar Beit Din. Not a Tzar Beit Din. They need to provide the. So says the Tosef. So here I have a double problem because the goy, right? The guy who's working in the hospital, right? You have lots of goyim working in hospitals, right? What? Even Shari Tzedek. There are lots of goyim working in the hospital. Are you allowed to give them the Shmita fruit? So it seems to be two different problems. One is that they're machilim to goy, and second, not allowed to sechil. Right? Now, Mashakeni mas schil Shabbat, schil Chodesh, schil Shana, schil Shavua, or sheketzitzum meznotav alav, machilim to pirot shvit. So, right. So let's see how the Rambam explains that. What? Once they become part of your household, you see them as part of your household, and that really is the way it really would work. Is let's have a look at the Rambam. So the Rambam, pirot shvit motzion ma'aretz lechutzas v'afilu l'suria. It's another din. Vein ma'achilin lo legoy. What? Right. In ma'achilin lo legoy v'lo l'sachir ve'im ha'eschir Shabbat, schir Shana, schir Chodesh, or shekatzatz mizontan alav, harei hu k'anshei beito ma'achilin oto. So, if we have part of the contract that you're going to be a live-in, so you are allowed to feed them. So this is a big enough kamina if I have what is known as a Filipinate. Right? Now, it's even more interesting. She actually is Filipino, right? Stop. It's right. Why is that more interesting? No, I was joking. That the Filipino is a status. It has nothing to do with where you come from, right? It's actually from the Philippines, so it's a bonus, right? But so now, am I allowed to feed the Filipino the pirot shvit? So, in terms of the schirut, it's okay. Because it's not, there's a difference between I need to provide a lunch to the workers every day that they work at my house, and they've become part of the household. Once they become part of the household, there's no problem feeding them. Just like the Kohen could give his Avadim Truma, same idea. So then in those situations, you could give them, you could provide them with that food. Elamai, there's one problem, which is in Machlin Goy. Who's this guy we're talking about? Now the Rambam also Machinotan lo legoyim vero lesachir. Seems to be implying two separate things, right? So the Mari Kurkus on page 13. Which seems to be, he says like this. These two separate things. See in the next paragraph. Why would I be feeding a guy? It must be we're talking about a guy who's a sachil. The guy, they mean in our language would be in Israeli lingo would be the Filipino. See what I'm saying? They say the guy, they mean the live-in guy who's doing whatever services, and therefore you have to feed them. That's what we're talking about. And then what? And then if the guy is the Arab doing a shipputs in your house, and you have to give them lunch, that's a problem. But if it's a Filipino, it's fine. That would be the difference. Because the issue is not there being a guy. It's just the assumption is, why would you ever be feeding a guy? It must be because there's some kind of business. You're not just having them for lunch, stam, right? You're having Sudat Shabbat, you have a Sudat Shabbat, you have people come over, right? You're not inviting Goyim for that, right? Why are you having Goyim? For business. It depends what kind of business. That's the assumption. So the Marikor goes, Right? Right. They said there are two kinds of sachir. Right? There's sachir who's the Arab doing the shiputs in your house. That you're contractually obligated to give that, to provide a lunch, and then you can't provide it from the Portuguese. What? What's Samagli? Right. Three cases. There's the Filipinit. That's that you're allowed because then can Beito. You have the Shiputznik, and you have the Giur program that you invited over for Leila Seder. There you can. That'd be the machloket. That's the machloket. See what I'm saying? If you have them over stam, not as business. Yeah. So the Marikurkos gave two options, right? There'd be a machloket. The question is, are you allowed to feed Goyim Shmita fruit at all? First of all, right? There are two separate questions. One is in business, what business context are you allowed to feed? So there, step back. I have the shiputznik, I have my Jewish plumber. All right. And he says, I'm doing this whole big job, so I want you to buy me lunch every day. Fine, I can't give him from Shmita fruit. No. What? I'm not allowed to give what? Yeah, I'm not allowed to give the Jewish plumber Shmita fruit in that context because that would be a part of the business. Yeah. That would be awesome. That's one case. Case number one. Case number two, I have same thing with a guy. Easy. He's both a guy and he's doing the shiputs and etc. So fine. Now, the case of the Filipinite, she's a live-in. So you're allowed to give her. Why? Because she's a live-in. What problem does that solve? The problem that it's not the same kind of business, or did it also solve the problem of her being a guy? Well, it depends. Is her being a guy a problem? Right? So the definitely answer is both, assuming being a guy was an issue. Is that there? Because the Lashon and the Rambam, the order in the Rambam, there are those who are medek, and the order in the Rambam that shows that it's two separate issues. Why? First of all, in Machinotan lo legoy, velo lesachir, which means the goy, you're not allowed to give the goy unto itself. But what's more interesting is what? Lo legoy, v'gam lo to Jewish sachir. That's right. Plumber, right? The plumber we said before, right? Lo legoy, and also not lesachir. Two separate people. Now look at the previous part in the Rambam. Why not? We're going to learn properly why not in unit 15, I think this comes up. But what I want to point out about this is it started right. The kedusha of the fruit. Don't take it to America with you. I actually got a few shilas about this because people are going away for the summer. They say, hey, we can bring some kedusha out of the chutzlaretz. No, you can't, right? Pay attention, right? You're not allowed to. So, right. Yeah, it's a problem. So, Porchvit, you're not taking the Porchvit out to Chutzla, right? And also not giving it to a guy. If you look at that juxtaposition, it sounds a lot more like it has to do with the holiness issue, the aspect, and not just the business aspect. So, the two ways, that's the Mari Kurko says two ways of reading it. Lemaise, the Rav Kanievsky is more Mekel. No, he's more Machmir. The Rav Kanievsky is Dafka more Machmir, and our Chasholchan is more Mekel. Rav Kook is more Mekel. Right, Rav Kook. So like this, three-way machloket. I'll just sum up three-way machloket. Rav Kanievsky says you're not to give it to Goyim because that would be counted to the kedusha. Rav Kook said, why? No, Ved Zara everyone is okay because that's a living. That's a different story. They might be allowed to eat truma by Kohanim because they're part of the home. They're part of the Jewish home. That's that. Rav Kook says that midoraita, there's a problem to the business issues of doraita is doraita issue, according to everyone but as we've learned, right? And apart from that, Mishum Alat Shvi'it, there's another issue with giving it to Goyim. And the Aruch HaShulchan disagrees and says the whole bright is only about business. It's only about business. It's not at all about Goyim. It's not a Goyim issue.